Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster Mike, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday, 3rd of October 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man. And background to the news, we got sport, business, Sea-Watch, travel updates and the newsmakers in person this evening. Cardiology capacity issues at Manx Care, £40,000 fine for anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism laws. Cybersecurity in focus this week. The start of Ramsey's expansion into Lazaire and Garth. And will we see a sixth form centre on the Isle of Man?
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster My Rob Pritchard.
Faster My. The green light has been given to progress plans for an offshore wind farm in the south of the island. A recommendation has been endorsed by the Manx Utilities Board to progress the Erie Stain and Scard site to the environmental impact assessment and design stage. Government says, based on initial assessments by Wardell Armstrong, the area appears to offer the best value to electricity consumers of the Isle of Man. The steam packet says a recent poor weather incident illustrates the advantages of its proposed live-on-board model. Last month, the Ben McCree spent 10 hours at sea before having to return to Douglas when it was unable to berth in Heysham. Managing Director Brian Thompson says if the live-on-board model was in place, crew members could have taken a break on board before docking. Police have issued a warning following reports of people cold calling for odd jobs in the West Douglas area. The force is asking people to keep a vigilant eye on any neighbours who may be susceptible to these approaches. In international news, the UK Home Secretary's claimed the world faces a hurricane of mass migration. Suella Bravemans told the Tory conference there are far more people who want to move to the UK than can be accommodated. A factory worker has been jailed for more than 3 years for tampering with food supplied to restaurants like Nando's. Gary Jones put rubber gloves, plastic bags and metal ring poles into tubs of salad dressings and hummus. And finally, TikTok is trialling a new paid service for people who don't want to see adverts on the video sharing platform. The social media company hasn't said whether the UK will be part of the pilot. Those are your headlines. News in full at 6 o'clock.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Rob, from the Ronaldsway Met Office. We got a strong wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea moderate, and this evening clear spells after dark. A fresh southwest wind. Overnight minimum is 11. For Ukraine, Wednesday dry with bright or sunny spells. A fresh to strong wind coming in from the southwest. Daylight maximum 16. Lowest temperature through the night 13. Into Jardine, dry and cloudy start on Thursday, then rain arriving on a strong south-southwesterly up to 16 Celsius. Sunsets tonight at 9 minutes before 7 o'clock. Low water 5 past 9. High tide 5 past 3 a.m. Sunrise 25 past 7 tomorrow morning. In the morning, low water at 26 minutes to 10.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Manx Care's blaming capacity issues after cancelling numerous cardiology appointments. But for Paul Hay, who's unable to work due to a serious heart condition, he's been pushed back 3 times, and by the time the next appointment comes round, he'll have been waiting 2.5 years.
I get massive chest pains down my arm, under my armpit, get short of breath, feel like passing out. So it's major. Even the cancellation of the appointment on the day of the appointment, I'd literally got a phone call at 9 o'clock in the morning saying, I'm sorry, the cardiologists are sick, which is obviously a false statement, so I don't know why they told me that in the first place. The stress and anxiety it caused me all weekend obviously caused me pain, so I felt ill all weekend because of it.
And how does that actually make you feel, knowing that you were due to have an appointment and it's been cancelled at the last minute after quite a significant amount of time?
Upset, and then once I'm past being upset, I'm angry. For me, it seems like they haven't checked my medical records, because why would you cancel someone's appointment who's currently suffering from a heart condition? If I was an 83-year-old Mary from Port Erin, maybe not fully compass mentis, she might just accept that. But that might cost her life. Does that then mean that Manx Care are then failing in the duty of care they've got with their patients, with the islanders, with the residents of the island? My appointment has been rescheduled from the 11th of October 2023 to Friday the 25th of October 2024.
So that's more than a year away. I mean, is that good enough? Are you satisfied with that?
Oh, not in the slightest. I shouldn't have to wait any longer at all. I should have been seen well before now. I don't have an endless pit of money. I'm completely dependent on my wife now, who is actually a specialist nurse as well, and she is shocked at the care, absolutely disgusted at the care.
The Isle of Man's financial regulators given a Manx company a fine of just under £40,000 under anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism laws. The Isle of Man FSA, the Financial Services Authority, says Y&A Group has a high proportion of foreign politically exposed persons in the business's annual submission.
Y&A, which is registered with the Financial Services Authority as a tax advisor, was inspected in April last year, which identified a significant number of contraventions by the firm and its clients. It comes after an annual return to the authority in 2020 indicated a high proportion of foreign politically exposed persons, or FPEPs. Among the issues highlighted were a risk assessment policy that was too generic and didn't identify the risks posed to the business, a lack of adequately established source of funds and source of wealth, and FPEPs not being identified as such at the appropriate time. The FSA deemed the breach to be in the more serious bracket for imposing a civil penalty, resulting in a fine of £40,901, which has been discounted by 30% to £28,631, as the company engaged positively with the regulator throughout the matter. The authority adds that it is committed to taking appropriate and proportionate action to address contraventions of its anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism code.
The Education Minister says the future of the Isle of Man schools could include a sixth form centre and closing low-capacity primary schools. Here's Julie Edge, MHK.
Condition surveys of all of our schools have been carried out, and in our department we are looking very closely at sixth form centres, capacity of them, and also the capacity of all of our schools. But my biggest challenge for the Isle of Man is the East, and for capacity and for places for students. Clearly we've got some schools over capacity, but we've also got to then look and consider, if you think of students in a primary school, the numbers on roll are falling, and then also in secondary, Ballacombe numbers have fallen again this year, and we need to look at the projection. But I think the most important thing for the island is to have this full strategic approach to our infrastructure and to get the best outcomes for our students. And if that, when we look at this more closely about a sixth form centre, if that's the right thing to do, that's certainly what I'll be recommending.
And what's causing the diminishing role? Is it a falling birth rate or emigration?
Well, obviously it does change each year, Andy, with different cohorts that come into school. However, in the East, since September, we've had students arriving in our schools that were not expected. So it does move. And when there's been a new housing estate, we've always built a new primary school in that area. Now, a lot of those estates are getting older. There's not so many children in the areas. So I think we need to be looking at this approach totally differently, utilise the excellent buildings we have, and let's look at some of the older structures and see what we can do with them.
Will you, if necessary, close schools where the capacity is becoming like 50% and has been so for year on year?
Certainly it's something that we are looking at, all of the capacity in our schools, and we'll do the right thing for the community. A
pre-inquiry hearing's been held to discuss Ramsey Commissioner's plan to expand into areas including Lozère and Garth. These Lozère residents shared their concerns about the extension.
The point of the inquiry is basically on 6 points, 6 items. The main item being the community. Ramsey are not in a position at the moment now to serve the community that exists already here, be it Ramsey people or be it Lozère people. So going forward into the plan, the Northern Plan, as they're saying we should go forward, and 100,000 people, and they're looking to expand their boundaries to take a proportion of that. They can't fulfil their commitment now. And I think that's the end of the story. The Commission and the inquiry should not go forward because Ramsey cannot fulfil currently its obligation to its people now. They are not doing it. You just come and look at Ramsey, and that's the end of the story.
My concerns chiefly were that I looked at the submission that Ramsey had put in and I thought it was very rushed. And I mean, that's been borne out by today's meeting already, that they're already asking for timeframes to be moved backwards. And probably the key one for me was, why would Ramsey go ahead with a submission when the Northern Area Plan is only 12 months for being finalised? And there are key points within that plan. I've read the draft area plan. Specifically, one point that relates to Glen Aldin is that it should be recognised as a group of houses in the countryside, should be recognised in its own right. So why are they pushing forward now to absorb it into Ramsey when there's a draft plan in operation which is saying it should be recognised as an independent kind of community in its own?
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Mothership Ben McCree left Heysham at 2:20. She'll be into the bay very shortly. We have no fast craft operating. Ben McCree is out tonight at 8:15, heading for Heysham, getting there about midnight. The 02:15 departure from Lancashire arrives back in Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. Currently, the Manxman is lounging by Onken Head and will be departing tomorrow morning, 8:45, heading for Heysham.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
A head teacher on the Isle of Man's calling for his local MHK to visit his school before criticising it. The Garth MHK Andrew Smith said having one head teacher overseeing 2 primary schools in the constituency, as well as another in Douglas, is a stretch, adding that Laxey School has lost its identity. Here's the head teacher, Max Kelly, and his response.
He's not engaged in any dialogue with me to understand our educational philosophy, the standards we maintain, or the unique challenges and opportunities that come with overseeing multiple schools. So I find it disheartening that an elected representative would publicly critique an educational institution in his own constituency without first-hand knowledge or engagement. Mr. Smith mentioned that he feels Laxey School, quote, has lost its identity and should revert to its past form. What he may not realise is that education is an evolving landscape. His comparison is based on a Laxey School of decades ago, and if he'd taken the time to get to know the current state of affairs, he would see that our educational standards are among the very best. We're very transparent, we publish our results online for anyone to examine, children are happy, and perhaps most crucially, parents have not raised any of these concerns about an apparent lost identity. On the contrary, our parents seem proud to be associated with our lovely little school. And absolutely, we have improved as a school in the year since my appointment. Our curriculum is rigorous and our data indicates high levels of academic achievement. So as head teacher, I take pride in the identity we've forged, which is not diluted, but rather enriched by being part of a network of schools. So I would encourage Mr. Smith to engage constructively with us. Let's celebrate what our schools achieve. Let's work together to make them even better. It's disappointing to hear a local MHK not taking up the chance to talk up and celebrate the successes of our school.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, low-cost Hungarian airline Wizz Air saw passenger numbers rise by more than a fifth last month, driven by rising capacity on fuller planes. Load factor, a key metric for airlines, it measures the percentage of filled seats to spare seats, rose to 92.4% in September, up from 87.1% a year earlier. The rolling 12-month load factor improved to 90.9% from 84.6% the year before. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookhall.com. Boohoo's planning to make major cost cuts after it slashed its sales forecast. The fast fashion retailer, whose brands include Pretty Little Thing, warned that sales could fall by up to 17% this year. Boohoo's facing tough competition from rivals like Shine, while financially stretched shoppers are also reining in spending. Boohoo said it's identified £125 million of cost savings to get the business back on track. It was one of the big winners in the pandemic as online retailers thrived, and it took the opportunity to snap up other brands like Nasty Gal. But it's found the going harder more recently out of the pandemic and reported sales of $729 million in the 6 months to the 31st of August. That's down 17% year on year. Boohoo's been making efforts to boost profits recently, starting to charge for returns and sourcing goods from Europe rather than from Asia.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stock markets closed lower as investors digested gloomy economic data from the region. The euro, pound and yen all pinned at multi-month lows as the surging US Treasury yields kept the dollar firmly on the front foot. Oil lowered on a stronger US dollar. And the numbers now from Ramsey Crookall reporting at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down just over 0.5% at 7,470. The DAX in Frankfurt down just over a percentage point at 15,085. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial down 1.33% at 32,992. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index down 1.9% at 13,060. And the S&P 500 in Chicago down 1.5% at 4,222. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 20.6 cents, €1 15.4 cents, and 23 South African rand 36.3 cents. In commodities, gold's down 0.5% at $1,823 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude up almost a percentage point at $91.26.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Speakers from Jersey and the United Kingdom are visiting the Isle of Man this week for the Isle of Man's 5th Cybersecurity Conference. The story from Siobhan Fletcher.
Cyber Isle is taking place tomorrow at the Comas Hotel in Santon. It'll be opened by Minister for Justice and Home Affairs Jane Poole-Wilson. 16 panels and presentations will take place over 2 conference halls, covering subjects including artificial intelligence, practical advice for small businesses, and deception techniques used by criminals. The first talk will outline the latest cyber threats facing the UK and the Isle of Man, delivered from the UK's Technical Authority for Cyber Threats. The day will be rounded out with a talk on cybercrime, questioning who carries the responsibility. This will look at the roles government, businesses and individuals play in combating cybercrime. The event is free to attend. You can find the full conference programme at manxradio.com.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Starting tonight with cycling, and it's been a good day for Manx elite competitors Becky Storey and Lizzie Holden, as they and their teams both secured strong results in today's Banch Port Dam in Belgium this afternoon. Storey and Team DSM Feminic took the victory during the one-day race, with Storey's teammate Pfeiffer Georgie taking first place and Charlotte Cool finishing 5th. Meanwhile, Holden, who's recently returned after a short time out with injury, helped fellow UAE Team ADQ rider Chiara Consoni to finish 4th. Elsewhere, and after expecting a quick turnaround following their victory at the weekend, FC Isle of Man now won't be in action this evening. Their NWCFL Premier Division clash at Charnock Richard tonight, scheduled to kick off at 7:45, has been postponed due to a waterlogged pitch at Mossy Park. The fixture will be rearranged in due course. As a result, the Ravens' next match will be away against Burscough this Saturday, kicking off at the Community Ground at 3 p.m. Another of FC Isle of Man's postponed ties against Earlham, which was called off earlier this month, has now been given a new date. That match will now be held at the RG3 Digital Stadium on Tuesday, the 31st of October at 7:45 p.m. And finally, dates for some of the Isle of Man's key triathlon events for 2024 have now been announced. Manx Tri Club has confirmed numerous competitions for the domestic calendar next year, which will also include a new event later in 2024. The triathlon season is due to begin on the 13th of April with the Junior Triathlon, and the Sprint Triathlon penned in just under a month later on the 12th of May. Following that, on the 16th of June is the Manx Middle Distance competition, with the annual Triathlon Championships scheduled for the 8th of September. Meanwhile, Manx Tri Club is planning to introduce a new contest to be known as the Super Sprint event, the final format of which remains under discussion.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 10 to 8 Loganair from London City's on time, 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool on time, and the 8:15 inbound EasyJet from London Gatwick showing on time. Outbound, The 5:30 EasyJet to Liverpool went 3 minutes early. 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool. The patient transfer plane is on time, and then it's the 8:45 EasyJet back to Gatwick showing on time. Of course, Newcastle town roads closed between Spring Valley Roundabout and the bottom of Richmond Hill. Diversions past the energy from waste plant. Hillside Avenue Douglas closed for adjacent office window replacement. Temporary lights on Glen Crutchery Road at the roundabout with Victoria Road for resurfacing. All sorts of one-ways there, so do take care. Temporary lights on Upper Dukes Road for pavement work. In Colby, lights on the main road near Colby Glen for some patching work. Also, temporary lights at the bottom of Glen Road, Colby, for drainage work. Temporary lights in Port St Mary at the junction with Queen's Road and Park Road for gas main work. Also, at the end of Howe Road near the Truggan Road for substation work. Near St John's, temporary lights at Billig Bridge for drainage work. And temporary lights back on the prom in Peel between the Marine and Weatherglass Corner for resurfacing.
H&H Motorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
Pastor Mai, good evening. Thanks for joining Manx Radio. This is Update, Monday to Friday, 5:30 through till 6, live from Douglas in the Isle of Man. The work permit system on the Isle of Man works perfectly well, and suspending it wouldn't necessarily make it any easier for new workers to come to the Isle of Man. So says Douglas North MHK John Wannenberg, who discussed government's proposals to relax work permit rules with the Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston.
I may be a little naive, but I think it's glaringly obvious that the work permit system that we have currently works perfectly well. There are exemptions where exemptions are needed. Without a doubt, there's mass migration across the world now. And I think we need to keep those things which keep this island, as unique as it is, in place without penalising those people who come here with specific skills that we do need. I mean, I came here 30 years ago. It didn't stop me coming here. I can see the opportunities he's trying to create by suspending the permits, and I acknowledge, well, that's to be welcomed. It's not enough for me to vote for it. He mentioned that nobody can come to work here unless they've got an offer of registration. Is that correct, Minister? So if somebody comes to work here, they have to have a written offer. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, as things stand, and as same going forward, you have to come with a job offer.
Okay.
And that employer would have had to try to find someone locally first before they do that, and that is the case, and that will be the situation going forward.
A while ago, you just mentioned that work permits have a similar sort of barrier. But we're replacing one barrier with the next barrier, aren't we? If that's the case.
No, because we're replacing it with a very basic registration scheme for everybody.
So we're not cutting the red tape, really.
Well, no, it's a lot simpler system. But the other important point I made was, at the moment, you have a situation where someone might only have a work permit for a year. They have to then go back every year to renew it. What we're saying is it would give them a 5-year period of time on the island, which, when we're talking about housing and the challenges of doing that, having some more certainty, more surety once they arrive on the island will help that process.
Update. Brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
A Royal Artillery veteran who was diagnosed with a debilitating autoimmune disease after leaving the army is due to walk around the Isle of Man's coastline as part of his 16,000-mile journey of a lifetime. Daniel McNeil started walking around Britain and its islands in March 2021 to raise awareness of mental health issues. Tonight, he arrives here.
I was suicidal, I was depressed, anxiety, I was taking drugs, I was gambling a lot as well, and I was going to get evicted from my house, and the charity helped me, and I managed to turn my life around really with that bit of inspiration they gave me. So come the end of the last lockdown at COVID, I wanted to give back to the charity and also to inspire people as well, to empower them, but I didn't know what to do. This idea came to my mind. Why don't you walk around the entire UK coastline, talk about your story, try to inspire people, and also raise a bit of money for SAFA as well. At the very start, I was only meant to do this walk for less than a year, but I went to Isle of Arran in Scotland and I absolutely loved it. It was my first island, and since then I've just been absolutely hooked. So I went to all the Hebrides, Orkney, Shetland, I've been to Isle of Wight, I've been to Northern Ireland and all the other islands in between that. This is going to be, I think, my last island of the walk, and I'm absolutely buzzing. I've always loved going to different types of islands. I'm sure Isle of Man has the island life that everyone talks about about that I also crave for, and I just love it. I love the peace, I love the tranquility, I love the different type of relaxed and laid back nature of a lot of people on islands and stuff like that. And I don't know a lot about Isle of Man. This walk, it's just been literally walk clockwise, make sure the sea's on my left, and that's it. That's the only rule I have, really. So I'll arrive in Douglas and I'll turn left and walk around clockwise.
A new leaflet's to be launched to celebrate the upcoming 200th anniversary of the RNLI. The charity is teaming up with Visit Isle of Man to highlight the rich nautical heritage of the Isle of Man. Here's Siobhan Fletcher.
Last week, representatives of the visitor economy came together at the Manx Museum to learn about promotional plans and events in the pipeline to celebrate the RNLI's 200th year in 2024. As part of the plans, a new leaflet including a map and trail has been created, pinpointing significant sites across the island where visitors can explore the life-saving charity's proud heritage. The leaflet will be available to accommodation providers at visitor information centres, the Sea Terminal and the Isle of Man Airport. A map proof was unveiled which showcases some of the significant sites in the island, including the 5 RNLI lifeboat stations at Douglas, Ramsey, Peel, Port St Mary and Port Erin. The map will also show other locations relevant to the story of the RNLI in the Isle of Man, such as the resting place of Sir William Hillary, the bronze sculpture paying tribute to the bravery of lifeboat crews in Douglas's sunken garden, a plaque commemorating the loss of the HMS Racehorse, and the House of Manannan, which will host a special RNLI exhibition in 2024. As an incentive to visit all the sites along the RNLI trail, each location will also host a QR code for more information.
That's it for Update Tonight, brought to you from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Rob Pritchard, producer Beth Espy. After the news at 6, Lewis Foster with Isle of Drag. Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley at 6:30. The Folk Show with John Barker at 9. After Hours, The Late Show with Dave Moore at 10. And I'll be back tomorrow at 5:30 with another update.
WINT